Good evening, everyone. I am your host and instructor, Laney Shaughnessy, and welcome to Spindle TV, your best source for CNC CAD/CAM training videos. Spindle TV is brought to you by Digital Woodcarver, inspiring your creativity and providing you with the tools to create your own unique masterpieces. Good evening, everyone. Oh my goodness, man, I am like 11 minutes late because my computer kept shutting off. All that wonderful technical stuff that you experience. I hope you all are doing well tonight. Sorry about the late hour starting. Normally we start around 7 p.m., 7:15 at the latest, but today we are starting at 7:41. We're going to be covering a Mother's Day project tonight, maybe a few. We're going to kind of go through a couple of options and see what we can come up with for some Mother's Day projects, and just go through different things. In these, more so than the project, we're going to be learning some different techniques of distorting, creating boundaries and borders, and trimming. Not our interactive trimming with our scissors, but our trimming to a border or a boundary, should I say, in one of the projects. And then we're going to go through and we're going to make some frames and stuff as well. There's a couple of things that we're going to do, and we'll see what we can come up with. All right, so one of the things that you'll see when we're going to jump right into this, but one of the things that you see when we switch over to the Vectric channel is we're going to be I'm going to provide a little file, a little Mother's Day postcard file that we made up here, and it's going to be available for a digital download. It'll be about $2 a download, a little postcard type file with toolpaths and stuff. You'll see that when we come up. Just a very simple small project. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and let me check my audio to make sure that everything is good there. And let's go ahead and get off of my ugly mug, and let's get over to the Vectric software. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I see, you guys passed the time having some conversation, but wonderful stuff. And I saw that Jeff Crawford had some questions about the laser and all. Currently, right now, the laser is at $7.99, and I don't see it going down. We have promotions and all, and currently, right now, Burl would have to make the decision. I don't see the laser going on sale in the very near future. The only thing I see is a price increase on it. So $7.99 is right now a good deal. But that around the holidays and stuff that could change and all, but we don't have a lot of margin in the laser, and therefore we really can't put it in or include it in with promotions and things at this time. And so I Jeff, you can absolutely wait, see what happens and all, but if history repeats itself, the only thing I see is the price increasing on it rather than decreasing. Alrighty, so all right, David, how you doing, buddy? How you doing, Jerry and Jeff and Steven and everybody that Bob and Joe and Peter and all, welcome. So this little postcard project here, I think it's a small 8x6. All of the files and designs and stuff are going to be available. This will be available for a digital download, a quick $2 digital download, and all the toolpaths and all for as a finished project. If that is something that interests you and you want something that's, a nice little, I don't know. So, oops, we don't want to do that. We want to preview all the toolpaths and remove the heart, not the postcard itself. Just something simple. I mean, it's nothing major. You guys, if you look at it long enough, hell, you can make it yourself. All right, let's go ahead and let's start a new project. But I hope y'all, if you do want to download it, pay the $2 because it does help support me over here at Old Digital Woodcarver and keep things going, keep things free as much as possible. Today's projects, we're going to look at a couple of things. And the first thing that we're going to do is basically we're going to do a cutout of a sign. And that it's going to be 2 species of wood. So we're going to have 1 species of wood, typically a darker species, depending on, you know, which way you go with it. That would be the backer board. And then a lighter species is going to be the cutout. Once those 2 parts are cut, then of course we can, glue and adhere them together to create the finished project. And so let's go ahead and get started with that here. So for this project, it's not going to be a big one. We're going to go about 16 inches wide. And I want this to be a nice oval shaped project. So I'm going to go with, let's see here. Let's go with a 14 inch. I'm sorry. I should have went down. 10 inch by 16. Yeah, nice little rectangular project that's going to be cut out to an oval. So we'll go 16 in the length, 10 inches in the width, and then of course 3/4 of an inch. Now, as far as the top part of the project that's going to get cut out, you can make that. I would typically, it would be a 1/4 inch piece of material. It would be 3/8, 1/2 inch, no bigger than 1/2 inch because it kind of takes away from it. But of course, you could use 2 pieces of 3/4 inch material. But I would generally say about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 if that. And so, but we're going to set the project up for a 3/4 inch project, and then you'll just I'll give you the reminder that the top piece will be cut out of a thinner stock of material. With a through cut, and we'll set that profile cut, accordingly. Now we are going to touch our Z-off on the material surface for this project, and we will be working off the XY datum position of the bottom left corner. But of course, you can work on you can start from any of the 4 corners that you wish. If you do download these files that I provide to you, you can absolutely make changes in the size, the start point, the Z touch-off position, and of course the toolpath speeds and feeds and all of that settings. You never want to take a toolpath for granted, and you always want to look at it and make any appropriate changes for your bits and your settings for your machine. But you also, any files that I provide you, of course, you can change. Just be sure to recalculate those toolpaths for those changes and settings and all. But I will be starting with the bottom left corner. I will be using the DWC Quickset to set my X and Y and Z. So I will work off the bottom left corner for this project, and we will click OK to get started. Let's see here. I see somebody had lost me. You guys still with me? Let me know if you're still with me and all of that wonderful stuff. Now, I do want this to be an oval project, so we are going to open up the ellipse tool. And I'm going to, now I have my smart snapping and smart geometry turned on, and so that allows me to snap to particular parts of my board. Well, with my tool open, as I come to the center, you can see that crosshair pop up showing me that I'm at the center. And, I want to kind of start from there. And now I'm going to hold down my left mouse button and I'm going to drag this oval out. Okay. And once I have that, I will go into the offset tool. Now, this is going to be the outside border, the backer board that's going to get cut out. And so inside of this area, we're going to have the inner part that gets created. Now, we can have just a plain Jane cut border straight down. We can do a nice profile cut, which means we would be using the molding tool path, or we could use a special profile bit, our roundover bits, our OG bits, as long as they are plungeable and do not have the guide bearing on. We can, plunge with those. We can create this outer profile as any way we want before we cut it out. For me, we're gonna look at a molding toolpath and do something with it. So that being known, I'm going to create an offset inward. To start off with, I'm going to go inward, and we're going to go 1/2 inch, 0.5 inward, and we are going to offset that. And that's going to be between these 2 points will be my molding. And so when where that molding starts and all, I want a small little distance away from that inner edge where my centerpiece is going to be attached to this backer board. So I'm going to, once again, I'm going to offset inward, but this time I'm just going to give myself about a 1/16 of an inch clearance inward where my inner piece is going to go. And then from there, I'll have my profile will start. And so with that, now this is my inner part, and this is the part we're going to focus on to create. What I'd like to do is I want in big wonderful letters for this Mother's Day present, I want mom, and I may want to do some kind of decorative design of sorts to maybe a rose or something like that. I'm not sure. We'll get into it, and we'll see how well we get along. And then in our next project, the second project, we're going to do a similar thing, but we're actually going to do along like a sentence, world's greatest mom or something. You're going to see how we create that nice little cutout profile for the backer board as well. So let's get into the inner part here. So we're going to focus on that. And for that inner part, I want a band. I need a band because I want to cut this out, this border basically for this inner part. And I want it to be a good amount of thickness. So I believe looking at that 1/2 inch, that's actually a pretty decent border size. So I got the hiccup. Sorry. I'll start off with that, and let's offset that in one more time. All right. Wonderful. Awesome blossom. Okay. Finished with our offsets. Now we're going to go in and let's create some text. And for this one, this is just going to be a very simple, mom sign. You could do whatever you want. Mom, mother, I love you, whatever, just, follow along. I'm just going to simply go MOM. Now, I want to pick a font. I want a nice, bold font, something that's creative, because I am going to be distorting this font. So I want something that, is creative and all. And to help me, and we've talked about this before, is we're going to check out what all the fonts that we have available to us on my computer by using the wordmark.it website. WordMarket, for any of you new folks that have just now tuning in with us. WordMarket is a site where I can type in a sentence, phrase, word, what have you. When I hit enter, it will show me all of the fonts that are on my computer. Now, I'd like this font to have some roundness to it instead of block and everything. I want it to have a little bit of, a little bit of style, a little bit of something. I kind of like the A.R. Berkeley look there, but I want to go with something. I want a wide font. So let's go ahead and rock the cat palm. There you go. There's Brussels. I'll remember Brussels here. The brush script is a nice script as well. Brussels looks like it has a little bit more meat to it, so I think that's going to be the top contender right now. Brussels font. Let's see here. Ooh, the Forte would be pretty cool too, but I believe Brussels is going to be the overall winner. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Okay. I hope that's not a catchphrase that's copyrighted, because I'm gonna I'll have to be paying 25 cents for every time somebody watches this video. All right, so Brussels is what we're gonna go with. So in my font list, I'm gonna go ahead and hit the letter B and scroll down to Brussels. All right, I am just in case there is a bold option for it, I do want it bold. And for right now, I'm going to go with a 4-inch tall text and click apply. Let's get it up onto our board. So let's bring it down a little bit while we're in the text box, because I will be distorting it to this inner border. But just to bring it down a little bit in size, just to get me in the general area, we're going to go ahead and close that off. Now, I want this to distort to this inside oval. So I'm going to, while my text is selected, I am going to select that inside oval there. And I'm going to distort in the Transform Objects menu. I'm going to distort this text between... I guess it would kind of fall into a... Oh, would it be a bounding box? I think it would be between... No, it wouldn't be between. So it looks like I'm kind of... I need to do some cutting and trimming. So let's do this. Before we distort, let's go into node editing mode on this outer border here for a second, because I do want to distort it between essentially 2 lines. And so let's pick a spot, any spot, to right click and cut the vector there. And over here the same thing, we're going to cut that vector there. Now we've got 2 separate items here. And now let's go ahead and go into the distort tool and see what happens when we distort. So now everything is okay. Let's go ahead and see what we get. It's going to be funky, I think. I don't know. Let's see here. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. All right. Dadgum you. Dang you. Dang you. Gonna get a rope and hang you. All right, let's bring that down a little bit. Let's see here. Do I need to, let's see here. Let's bring that up off of each other once. We'll snap that one up a little, this one down a little, so they're not touching. And let's try that one more time, because there's usually some rules of what you can do and what you can't do. And there's little, there we go. Woo! Holy bajoli. That's craziness. All right. Now, it went upside down. Let's undo that. It's all important, very, very important, which vector you select first. So we're going to select the mom first, and then the bottom vector, then the top. Bottom, then the top, and distort that. All right, here we go. Now, looks ugly. We're not done yet. Bear with me. All right, so we got it distorted. I've got my general shape, and now the on the 2, the ovals, the 2 vectors of the oval. Let's get them back together. So I need to bump that back down 1. I need to take this one and bump it back up 1. And I need to hold down my shift key and grab both of them so I can go into my join tool. I've got 2 open vectors. After I join, I will have 1 closed. Close that back up. And that join tool, for you new ladies and gentlemen, that is under the Edit Objects menu. It is the first icon on the last row of the Edit Object Tools. And it is our join. It closes open vectors. And when those vectors are in a proximity, close enough to each other within our tolerance here, it will join and close them into one vector. Now I have my closed oval back. Now, my text, my distorted text, is no longer text. It's no longer a vector. And well, it's, in a way, it's kind of a vector, but it is more so considered an envelope. And as I go into node editing on this, we have some various areas and things that we can adjust. Somebody's trying to call me in the middle of a class. So you're either... Did you lose me? Are you guys still with me? Let me know if you're still with me, because I keep looking over the chat and I still keep seeing the I lost them. So it might be the same sentence that I'm seeing over and over again. Now, with this, all of these nodes, these are the nodes, the distort points for this, this outside oval and everything. And that envelope, basically. And so if I were to pull a section of it down, you will see that it actually changes the letters and the words and things. It kind of moved them a little bit. Well, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to come in and grab a couple of these, and I just want to kind of bring them down, for a moment. And now notice when I'm doing that, it's pulling the envelope from here and things. So I'm kind of distorting my oval, but I'm not. My oval is here above it. Right now I'm kind of focusing on the text. So dependent upon what nodes I select, and if I hold my shift key down, I can go through and deselect some of these that I don't want selected, because I only want, this bottom section here. I can now bring that down and start to clean up the way that looked. And also, I can expand, I can extract, whatever I want to do. I'm just hitting my up and down arrow keys right now and kind of pulling this around. So what I want is I want to get a good looking mom. And let's see here. And so let's go ahead and pull this down, kind of get in this general area, and pull this over. And I could go through and delete a lot of these points if I wanted to, these nodes. And I do not believe if I were to delete any particular node, it's just like regular node editing. If I went through and deleted a section of nodes, would it distort my text in any way? I'm not 100% sure. So, but I do know right now that I want to kind of size this up a little bit. Kind of get it in here for a moment. I'm going to look at it. And looking at this, I'm not really happy with the way it did my M's. And going through and trying to clean up that envelope would be a pain in the arse. So I'm gonna quickly Control Z multiple times to kind of get back to where I was. You'll see that that undo as I'm Control Zing. Control Z will be your best friend in many cases, but I want to get back to the point of that original distortion to where I was here, because I do believe that I can do a better job distorting this text and making it look the way I want by breaking it up or converting it into a curve and working with each of these letters individually. Let's pull that in a little bit. Yeah, I much more. So the distort in this case, I'm not going to go with. I'm just going to manually distort this. And I really don't want to be, let's see here. I want to bring this down because that I want over in the corner over here. And then I'll stretch it up to fit this part of the oval. All right, for the O, I'm going to go ahead and group those two together as one so I can go in and size this up. At first, I'm going to keep its aspect ratio. We'll have that in there. And then on this M, I am going to move it over. And then I'll size this up. I don't want it looking exactly the same on both ends. I want some differentiation, difference. I want some difference. Let's get this holding about like, I want to be able to know that that's a letter M there. All right, what do I want to do with this lower part here? Let's see here. Let's bring that up just a tad. A little bit more. The O. I need that O to overlap a little, so I'll move it over there. All right. So we'll go with that. And now I need to, because I remember all the undo actions, I need to come in and bring my ellipse here back together. And let's go ahead and rejoin that as one. So we have one closed vector. And now we're going to remove everything and kind of blend mom with this border. So basically the text is going to be gone here in a moment. But first, let's go ahead and trim up mom and get her all welded together. Trim up mom. Okay. So let's go into our scissor tool and let's clean up. Whoop. Work out now. Don't you be doing that stuff. Let's get rid of that loop. Let's ungroup my O so I can do some trimming on it. There we go. And I could weld all this together, but we're just showing the interactive trim tool at this time. I'll leave that little triangle in there. Why not? And down here, let's get that. Let's get rid of that little loop in that M there. And let's look and see if there's anything. Here's another loop here that we need to clean up and another one down here. That means if there's two there, that means on this M there are two more right here. And I believe, by Jove, we got it. So now I'm going to, that little guy right there, let's rejoin him. He should not be separated where I cut those two. So when I had my trim tool open, look at there, the last person that used my trim tool, Miss Denise, if you're watching this class, unchecked my rejoin trim section automatically when the form is closed. So I am going to undo those little trims, open that tool back up and rejoin those. And just real quickly now go back through and trim them again. And they should automatically close those vectors or anything from when I, oh, look at there. And there's that one trim up there. So I'll just use the join tool to bring all that back together. The join tool to bring all that back together. But yeah, if you let somebody else use your computer, look at there, and things, they change settings and stuff. Be sure to make sure you are aware of that before you go and teach a class. All right, so we'll join that together. So now I should have Look at there. All this headache she's caused. Alright, so I'm just joining all these open vectors. Now we should have one closed vector all the way around. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to add in these two other vectors here. Look at there. Let's quickly bring that together by joining it. Wonderful. Alright, if I right click and hit selection and select all open vectors, there should be no more open vectors in my design. So now we can continue on. So I'm going to select all the vectors of mom and I'm going to group them together. I want them acting like one object when I do this, this trim, this clear. And the mom is going to be the boundary. Believe it or not, mom's going to be the boundary, and the oval is going to be what I am trimming. Normally, you would think, well, why wouldn't the oval be the boundary? And, mom trim, and that way it just clears out all the stuff that's inside the oval and all. Well, that's fine and well and all, but I literally want to recreate this vector all the way around. And so, by doing that, it gives me the opportunity to blend. So if I select mom first and I hold down the shift key and select my oval last, now I can use my trim tool, not my interactive, which is the interactive trim is the scissors, but my trim tool. I can come in here and I want to clear everything inside the boundary. And remember, the boundary. And let's... Nope, we did that backwards. Hold on a second. Look here. Keyword is the boundary is going to be the last object you selected. Okay. So this is the object I wish to trim. And I want to select the boundary last, which is mom. I selected mom first the last time. And now I can clear everything inside that boundary. And what it has done, if you look very closely, we have created this duplicate line all the way around all of our objects from one side to the other. So what that means now is if I get rid of the actual text mom that I've got grouped together, if I delete that, we end up with our trimmed frame with our text. Okay, we end up with our trimmed frame. So this is going to be the frame that's going to get cut out. Let's do it this way. This is going to be the frame that gets cut out, and this is what's going to get attached to the backer board oval. And we've just created and blended that together with the trim tool. Now, if you want me to undo it and do it again so you understand the process, we can. Let me know. But we basically trimmed that oval to the boundary. So what it did, mom being the boundary, it took the oval and literally redrew it because it closes off the vector when it trims. It automatically closes off the vector. It doesn't leave an open vector, so it literally rewrapped that oval. Instead of, with all this area gone, it literally rewrapped that oval around the outside of the text letters all the way to its point to close it off. Same thing here, rewrapped that around, and then took this and wrapped it around the lower part of the M's all the way to here, and it reclosed that off. So I got a request to redo, so let's undo that. Okay, let's undo that. All right, so our oval is coming through the letter mom, the M in the mom, and the M over here. Well, just like, think of this as well if you were making a door hanger or something, a little monogram door hanger. It's the same procedure you would use. Well, I need to trim these objects together. And I could go through and use my scissor tool and weld or weld or trim or what have you. But the easiest way for me is to group together mom. All those vectors, group them together so it's one object. And that's going to be the boundary I trim to. So when I select the oval, what I want to trim, and I select the mom last, the boundary I want to trim to, and I clear everything inside of that boundary, basically all of these overlapping lines here, well, it's got to redraw those lines, and it closes itself off. It will not cross over, so what it ends up doing is literally redrawing that line all the way around to the other side. Bam, closes it off because it will not cross over that boundary. And this one here, when it removes it, it closes it off all the way around till it gets to the other side. So if I select that boundary first, the object I want to trim, or the object I want to trim first, to the boundary of mom, and I clear everything inside of that boundary, it redraws that line. You can see the duplicate line, that pink and black, and it redraws it. Now I no longer actually need the text of mom. I can actually delete that out of there, the actual mom text, and I'm left with that trimmed boundary. Okay? Are you with me? All right. All right. Okay. So now that we have that, let's go through and clean some things up. So I'm going to be using most likely a 1/4 inch end mill to cut out this part. To cut out this part. Maybe even an 1/8 inch end mill. A smaller end mill. And so I know that my end mill will not get into these high areas. I can very simply just go ahead and let's group all this together. Let's select it all. Select it all. One more time there, Linus. Draw it right. Go a little higher, buddy. Go a little higher. There we go. Don't be afraid to cross lines. And let's turn off this outside border. But if I select this and group it together, by the way, group is under the Edit Objects menu, the fourth icon on the top row, group and ungroup multiple objects or double 2 objects or more together or break them apart. Well, it's also the letter G on your keyboard. Group, the letter G on your keyboard. Ungroup, the letter U. So if I hit the letter G on my keyboard, that's the keyboard shortcut for group. U is ungroup. Okay? All right, so now let's go ahead and get on in here and clean some things up. Now here, if I just created my toolpath with my bit, then the bit's only going to go, it's only going to create the toolpath where it can cut. So it's going to kind of cut it off where it can cut. Well, then that, by letting it do that, let's create the toolpath so you see what I mean here. We're going to create a profile cut. And this is going to be a 1/2 inch 3/8. I'm going to go, me personally, I'm going to go with probably a 1/4 inch piece of material, maybe a piece of maple or something on a nice piece of walnut or what have you. Mom's worth the money, sometimes. No, so we'll go 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to use knowing that I'm going to be just doing a profile cut, I will use an 1/8 inch end mill, but if you don't have one, use a 1/4 inch. But I will use an 1/8 inch end mill, and I will be on the outside of the line. Now, here's the thing. When it cuts out this piece, this profile cut out of a contrasting piece of material, we are going to be on the outside of the line, but we have inside areas too. Now, Lainey, does that mean if we're cutting on the outside of the line, does it mean when it goes to cut on this line, it's going to be on the outside of it, and mess up the sign? Well, the software is intuitive. It's smart enough to know that we do have some inside vectors here. So it automatically reverses the toolpath, and it'll create an inside cut for those inside vectors. Okay? So let's go ahead and we'll set it as an outside, And I'm not going to use tabs right now. We would want to tab this because there are some big chunks and stuff. But I'm not going to tab it so we can break away the waste material so you can see what it looks like. So we'll go ahead and we'll just call this our mom centerpiece. Right? Something like that. Centerpiece. Because she should be the centerpiece of your life. Gotta earn those brownie points wherever you can with old dear old mom. You never know when you're gonna need them. All right, so 0.125 in mil, and let's hit calculate. All right, so if we preview, before we preview the cut, if we preview the toolpath in the 2D view, and let's turn it from the solid to the from the wireframe, should I say, to the solid, we can see our cuts here. And you can see what I'm talking about. So it's cutting on the outside of the line for that outside oval, but on the inside cut, it reverses that cut for the inside of the lines, so we have perfect, cutting. But now you can also see what I was talking about where the router bit's only going to go so far. All right? It's only going to go so far. And it's not going to create a toolpath any more than that. Well, if I was expecting to have mom cut out all nice and wide, that big old long stem of an M right there and all, and I got it cut out on the table and went, oh man, what happened? Well, it's because my bit couldn't fit up in there. So I can preempt that by widening those areas and giving myself a radius up here for my router bit and stuff, and kind of preempt it and get the design the way I want. Rather than just letting it let the toolpath kind of control it. I can control the design, and we want as much control as possible. But again, if we don't want to screw with it and say we'll just we know it's not going to come up here like this, then why mess with it, kind of thing. But let's go ahead and let's ungroup U for ungroup, and let's go into node editing. And by the way, node editing is the second icon, first row of the edit objects menu of your Vectric software, or it is the N for node editing key on your keyboard. Okay, so you can N for node editing. Now I want this line here. So now I have a choice. Do I widen this up a little bit more to let my bit to come in and then kind of radius it off? Knowing I'm using an 1/8 inch bit, I need at least a 1/16 inch radius. Sure. But first, I'm going to see if my, so that's not quite a sharp point. So my fillet tool will not do me any help here. So I will do it myself by coming in, and I'm going to cheat a little bit. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw a circle that has a radius of 0.0625. Click apply. And I'm going to pretty much, I'd like it to at least come up, have a little bit of length, maybe not up to the tip, but at least, somewhere in this general area. And I want to kind of get right about in the center of that area there. And now I can use my scissor tool and trim this away. I can trim this away and this away. And now I can come in and with my line tool, I can actually kind of find the tangents of my radius. My tangents, and of course my tangent is way over there. So I'm going to kind of back it off a little bit. All right there. Kind of get that general area. And then I'm going to come down and literally snap to that point and space to finish over. Now, of course, I did not snap to that. Look at that bad boy right there. And let's get this side going. All right, and space over there. Let's fix this dude right here because he just decided he wanted to be not touching. And I'm going to use my scissor tool, and let's go ahead and, Control Z. Let's zoom in. Still not touching. He's going to be a pain in the arse today, so let's go in here and cross him over. All right, let's go in here and let's trim away that little stub. Trim away that circle. Watch when I close this tool, those 2 points will end up together, which is wonderful. Let's trim this. Oh, too far, Laney. You get a little excited with the scissor tool there, buddy, bro. All right, trim that away. And one more. Trim that. And when I close the tool, it should pull those two together because of that automatic rejoin function. All right, now, oh, we got one more hiding down here. Let's see, that one will go into there and close. Now on that, I do not want all those jigs and jogs and everything. I want it to be a nice smooth transition. I just needed to get some room in there for my radius of my bit, because I will be bringing this down and rounding it off a little bit as well. But I'm going to go back into my node editing, and I'm going to delete this point, that point there, to pull that in there. I'm going to smooth this point, give me a little bit of that roundness. I'm going to smooth this point as well to kind of smooth that out. You can see where we're heading with this. And in the node editing, I am going to remove or delete that point, pull it back in line. So just kind of clean up that little area there. And for me, that's okay. That looks all right. That little curvature and everything in there looks fine for what I want. Now, if it bothered me, which now that I said it, it's bothering me that it curves so much. It looks like a broken pinky. All right, so let's go into node editing, and let's take these nodes here, and I'm going to use my left arrow key, kind of pull them over a little bit, making it a little stubby. Pull that over. And well, we got all kinds of snakehead looking things going on here, but I want to now, I'm going to zoom in, delete that point, clean that up, and I'm going to delete that point, clean that up, and I'm going to pull that back out to get that curve. So now it's not so, curved, but now my router bit will go all the way up into there. Okay. My router bit was stopping here on the M. That's fine. I'll let that one go. I'll let that one slide. But I do want to come over here and I believe if I turn that toolpath on to help me out, that solid view, right here, I want to clean that one up as well. And notice this is where I stopped. Now that router bit's going to be able to go all the way up in there and give me a nice cut right in there when I recalculate the toolpath. But before I recalculate, I want to kind of clean some of this up. Knowing that I have a radius of 1/16 of an inch with that 1/8 inch end mill, I can go into my fillet tool and see if my fillet tool will work with me on some of these areas. And of course, they will not. It will not. And that's fine, if it wants to be that way. Alright, so I'll just do it manually. Gotta do it manually. Usually on a sharp corner, sharp point. Usually the fillet tool, whatever you want to call it, fillet tool, works out, somewhat. So that's a big old radius. So that bit 0.0625. So let's bring that up. I'm not going to bring it down like that, but let's bring it up to see where our points are. So yeah, it's only going to really go there and all, and which is fine. What I can do is I can bring this over, use my control key micro over to this line here, and if I wanted to, I could come in and trim They're like, Laney, why are you doing all this? Why is it necessary? Just let the router do it, man. Let the router do it. That should pull that together. And I can kind of, you know, create that. And I could do the same thing over here as well. I don't know why I don't copy my circles so I don't have to keep drawing them. Let's let the router do it, man. I like to have a little bit of control every once in a while of my my cuts. Not that I'm you know, a control freak. But I like to have a little bit of control. What have you. Alright, let's get this last one fixed and let's get this thing cut out because this project should not take more than just a few seconds to create. Let's go in here and let's left click. I've got everything set for a 1/16 of an inch radius. Knowing that I'm working kind of basically with the upper part here, I'm going to kind of pull in about where I want to be. Where I want to be. And let's go ahead and do some trimming. Let's get rid of this upper part. Get rid of this inner part here. And let me show you a little bit of something here. If I go into node editing mode, I can just pull the lines, you know, about where I want to be, you know. And I'll pull somewhere right in there. And I can grab this node here and just kind of pull it around somewhere in there. I can take and I don't want it too thick or funky looking. I'm going to delete that point so it pulls up in. And let's trim away this. And once again, back in node editing, I do not need this point right here. And I can pull this now, this little anchor out and give myself a little bit of roundness. And we'll stick, oh, I just saw a little glitch. Let's go over here and clean up that glitch. Your eyes will start to adapt to the vectors. You will start to find and be able to see things just by the way the dotted lines reflect one another. When you come out and you see a bolder area where one part of the line is blacker than the other, you know, it usually is an indicator that something is going on, kind of thing, and you can zoom into it and find out what it is that's going on. All right, that's all I'm going to mess around with that for the mom sign. Let's go ahead and recalculate mom here. Let's recalculate the cutout. And let's get that outside vector. And calculate. Much more up into that cut. Nice. Let's preview that selected toolpath. And I can't break it away because my material is 3/4 of an inch thick. But it will be. Let's set the depth for 3/4 of an inch thick so we can cut it out. But know that we're going to actually go back in there and set it for the actual thickness of the material that we're going to use. So let's calculate that. Preview that selected toolpath. That way we can get rid of some of our waste here. Don't want to do that. All right. So this is going to be, now this is very plain Jane, you know, we can spice it up. We could put a rose up here in the border or something, some kind of little viney flower. What do I have for viney flowers? Let's look into my import vector file. If we go into my flash drive here and right click and view my medium icon so I can see the images of what I've got. Okay, I don't have any vectors of any viney flowers. So let's get out of the import vector and let's see what I have for pictures on that drive, which is eluding me at the moment. I got a nice lily or set of tulips over there. And that looks to be about it Oh, what do I got here? You know, we could put some tulips in there, you know, trace and get those to carve in. We could blend them in with the word mom. That might look special, you know. We'll save that one for the next one. All right, so we've got that cut. Now let's go ahead and let's create our molding, because I do want to have a nice decorative molding on this. Mom's worth the effort. So remember my offset from that outside border there. Remember that offset. I offset it a 1/2 inch inward. So I'm going to start off with a rectangle, and that rectangle is going to be a 1/2 inch wide, the same width as my offset. And then the height, you know, I've got a 3/4 inch piece of material. You know, how high or how tall, how much of this do I want to be my molding? And then how much of it do I want to be, you know, the base underneath that molding cut, you know, when it drops down to that flat area. And I'm going to go ahead and make this a 1/2 by a 1/2 and click apply. Let's try a 0.5, not 0.5, a 0.5 by 0.5 and click apply. There we go. And that will we use, but someone asked me to flip over to the 3D view so they could see the 3D view of mom. You know, that would be the cutout. And most likely, you know, this would be something I would do in like a light maple. And then I would have the walnut behind it. The walnut oval behind it with that nice border cut and everything. And this again would be a thin piece of material. I would not go 3/4 on top of 3/4. It would be more like a 1/4 on top of that 3/4. This would be a 1/4 inch thick, maybe 3/8 of an inch maximum I would go. You know, don't waste a lot of maple on mom. No, I'm just kidding. All right. And typically why I would go about 1/8 of an inch, because I can take my 3/4 inch maple board, I can resaw that in half because I have a bandsaw. I can resaw that in half and get at least 2 3/8 out of it. And by the time I clean it up, sand it up, you know, get it leveled again, you know, flat both of those pieces, I'll end up with about a 1/4 of an inch for each of those two pieces. And so therefore I can get 2 of these type of projects out of one 3/4 inch by 10 inch tall by 15 inch wide or whatever piece of maple. All right, so let's go back into the 2D view and we'll focus on our profile. Now when we're creating a profile, we do not need this lower span. This line between the two nodes is called a span. So we can right click while we're in node edit mode and we can delete that span. Now I would like this profile I want this lower end here, I want it to come up about, from its lowest point, I want it to come up about a 1/2 of an inch. So if you look as I'm slowly moving, you might see that distance flashing, that flashing distance. And so as I come up, notice the number is going down the closer I get to this point, right? So it's a countdown from that 1/2 of an inch. Well, I want this to be a 1/4 of an inch. So if I subtract, right, which is my halfway point right there, 0.25, it'll snap to that halfway point. But I want a 1/4 inch of lip here. And then my profile to start. Now, I want a very simple step over. So I'm going to use my line tool. And from this point, I want it to step over a small amount, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. And if I zoom in, notice my L is 0.06 because of the distance I'm away. If I zoom in, I can now break that down into multiple decimal points, and I can break it down. I want to get it to a 1/4 of an inch here, and I want to click and create that new point, that anchor point. And from there, I'm going to just come straight up 90 degrees. Oh, that wasn't 90. Undo while I'm in my line tool. And 90 degrees. Spacebar to finish. And I want that from that point, I want it to come into a round over. And then I want it to come up another 1/8 of an inch and then flatten off here at the top. So I'm going to basically come in, and if I had my line tool open. If I have my line tool open, if I highlight or wake up this point here, now it will give me that dotted line where I can snap to be in line with it. And I'm going to come right about, right about the same distance. Where's my, I'll go right there for right now. Let's see how far I was off. Oh, I was a little off, 0.07. That's all right, we'll move it around. We're going to come down 90 degrees and space bar. All right, so I'm going to use my guideline to help me get a 60. I want the same distance, so I'm going to snap to this point. I drag a guideline from the ruler to snap to this point. And I'm going to relatively make another guideline, negative 0.0625 away. So that way I know where I can snap this line to. So I'm going to grab the center of this line and snap it to there. Now I'm a 1/16 of an inch. See how that works. All right, so at the bottom of this line, I'm going to snap and just come straight across. Actually, control undo. Control undo. I want to snap up here to this top part, and I want to come straight across 90 degrees, which would be 0 on the A angle, and space off. All right, with my scissor tool, I can go ahead and interactively trim this point away. Get rid of this line here and here. All right, I didn't, there we go. And might as well, while I'm here, let's go ahead and trim, not that, that was what I wanted to keep. Control Z, I want to trim this and this away. Get my little step over. And now, from this point here, this profile point, I want to come down. I do want to come down a 1/16 of an inch. So let's get, oh, you booger. Let's get jiggy with it. Let me zoom in here. Right there. Okay. I do want to go there because I want this to step, arc to here, and then step up and over. So I'm going to finish off my line, spacebar. I just need that line right there. And I'm going to draw an arc from this point to this point. Let me snap to it. And I want to pull up my arc. You know, nice little, I don't know, let's make it a little rounder. Right about there. And now let's get rid of everything else. Get rid of that. Get rid of that and get rid of that. So this is going to be my profile. It's just going to have a simple arc. And let's go into node editing. Let's give that arc a little bit more definition. Not much. Yeah. I just want to make sure I don't create an undercut or anything like that, you know what I mean? Okay, so that's my profile that I'm going to use. That's my profile. And this is a quarter. So if I snap this to the center, that's going to be an 1/8. Right? Wrong? Am I wrong? Am I right? Let's see here. I need to come here. And I want to Move this guideline relative down, which is a negative number. Want to go down 1/8 of an inch. Create guide. There we go. That's where I need to be. Because I'm going to trim I don't know why my Node Edit doesn't like when I click on it first. I'm going to cut this line right here, and I'm going to do the same thing right on that intersection. I'm going to cut it there. And I'm going to get rid of these two pieces here. I didn't want it that tall. The profile was looking a little odd being that tall. Now I can go ahead and get rid of my guidelines, and we've got the profile. Holy cow, it took a whole 20 minutes to draw a profile when it should only take seconds. Seconds, I tell you. All right, so with that profile, now we can go into the molding toolpath. Our molding toolpath. And on the molding toolpath, we need to tell it two things. One, what is the boundary or what is the vector that we want this profile to follow? And that's going to be my outside boundary here. The second thing is, what is the profile? That's going to be that one there. And notice how it's going outward. I don't want it to go outward. I want it to go inward. So I'm going to remove my selection. I'm going to grab this inside vector and grab that. Let's try that one more time. Inside vector. Use your inside vector. There we go. I want to be inside that area for my profile. Now, if for me, I'm going to, this is a very simple, I'm going to use an 1/8 inch ball nose end mill for the tool. And I'm going to calculate this toolpath. All right, let's reset this preview back to a blank board. Let's preview that selected toolpath. All right, if we look at this toolpath, this molding toolpath, it's creating it backwards. Right? It's creating it backwards. If we look at it from a side view, it's creating it backwards. And I want the high side on the inside and the low side on the outside. So if I come in and I go into that swept profile and I just click on this green node and say reverse the direction and recalculate that toolpath, I can reset that preview and preview that selected toolpath. And now you will see the proper molding that we wanted here. And then let's do our final profile cut. Our outside vector, we're going to do a profile cut to cut it out. 3/4 of an inch is going to be the cut depth. I'm going to be using a 1/4 inch end mill. Down cut, up cut, depends. I'm going to use an up cut most likely. And I'm going to be cutting on the outside of the line. I am going to add tabs, but we'll add tabs in a moment. I just want to be able to remove this piece, this waste material, so you can see it. We will calculate this toolpath, preview that selected cut, and we will end up with our plaque. And again, it's a very basic round over we did, right? Something you could, if you wanted to, you could take it to the router table and create that round over, but as well. And this round over is going to have a small step out. It's going to come up from the side. It's going to step over, round over, step up, and step over to the flat bottom. And then my mom is going to, if I have, let's see here, walnut 2, this is going to be a piece of walnut, right? We're going to have a nice piece of walnut for the plaque. And then for the inside area, we're going to have a piece of maple, that maple mom cut out. And it's going to be a nice little, you can, instead of the word mom, maybe you can do I love you, mom. You could do number one mom, world's greatest mom. You know what I mean? You can embellish. But this would probably look nice with some flowers on the border and stuff. Let's make some flowers and then let's move on. So Bob Hill says you could always do an inlay again. Absolutely, we could always do an inlay again. We could take this design and we could inlay it for sure. I could do a pocket cut on my inlay. Right, I could pocket all of that out. And this piece too. And this I would actually leave walnut right there. So I would leave that walnut. I would leave that walnut, that piece right there. And I could inlay. Now, if I wanted to inlay the whole thing, so I have that actual maple band as well, you merry band of brothers, then I would do that. Yeah. And so we would do an inlay toolpath, straight cut. I would cut this down to, oh goodness, 1/8 of an inch pocket. Because that's the type of material I'm cutting out of. I'll use my 1/4 inch end mill. Actually, I'll change it to my 1/8 inch end mill. You know, get the best, because that's what I created my radiuses for. My 1/8 inch end mill. Alright, going to be on the, in this case, I want to be on the inside of the cut. Is it going to let me climb conventional? I need to select that. This is the mill. Got to remember, this is the mill. So let's calculate this and let's see what I just cut up. So let's look at the preview. Yeah, it's cutting out the mill. The mill part. Very, very good. Very good. My 1/8 inch bit. Yeah. Yep, that's what I want. Alright, so if we preview that cut. Let me think now. Yeah. If we were to preview that cut, you know, it would cut out the mill part out of an 1/8 inch thick piece of material. It's hard to gauge with this. Let me get this back into a lighter looking piece here. Pine, we'll go with pine. No, pine's yellow. Let's see here, maple. All right. So out of a thin piece of material, I would be cutting out this mom, and then turning right around and creating the female pocket. The female pocket, same vector selected, 1/4 of an inch deep, 1/4 of an inch wrong end mill. Let's go with our 1/8 of an inch end mill. Keep everything consistent. You must use the same end mill to cut the male and the female. Bum, 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 bum. This would be the female. Yep. So let's reset this preview. Let's look at that female pocket cut. Let's look at that swept profile. All right. Let's give this a color of some walnut in the background. And let's give this female cut a toolpath color of a light tan. If this were an inlay, of course, it would be flush, right? It wouldn't be carved down, but use your imagination. You'd have something that was similar to about like that. Let's do the final profile cut to cut it out. Get rid of it all, and we'd have a nice little mom plaque type of deal. You know what I mean? So yes, you could absolutely do it as an inlay as well. I inlay is one way to go, but I like the fact of cutting out the piece and adhering it to the top, you know, as well. But whatever which way you want to get, whatever which way you want to get, you know, get what you want to get. You know, so we would go, it would look something like that. Well, minus the cut, it would be flush, guys. Use your imagination. Can't very well show an inlay. All right. Now, I said I liked the thought of a flower border, you know, some kind of flower here or something. And so I am going to see if I can incorporate the tulips into this somehow or another rather quickly. And so let's take and so it doesn't confuse you guys, let's go ahead and pull this over to the side off the work area. For you folks that have never done bitmap tracing before, we're going to trace this image using the bitmap trace tool under the create vectors. I'm going to use the black and white option. I'm going to turn the fading to none so I can see, and I'm going to slide this slide bar till I get the best representation of my flower photo, and I'm going to click preview. It's going to trace that out. If we were to hide the photo, you could see that tracing, and I'm going to apply that tracing and close that tool. Now I can turn off the bitmap layer and I have my vector, my scalable graphic, my tracing of that tulip. All right. All right. Now, I do not know if this tulip comes into, you know, would look okay with this, you know, maybe if I rotated it and brought it in some way. I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is if I take this and break it up, I do know that I do not want this leaf. I do not want this leaf. I will take this leaf for $300, Alex. Not that one. This one. This flower petal. And, let me select these two. Come on now. I'm going to group that together. And now I can pull this down. Maybe find some cool way to apply it. I'm going to group those together. I'm going to flip them, not rotate. I'm going to mirror them. Just flip them to the top like that. Let's turn off create a mirror copy. I don't want a mirror copy of it. I just want to flip them upward. So that way I can bring them up. Maybe rotate them a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the tulips is not the best way to go. It's not. It just doesn't. It's not. It's not making me tingle. So, what else do we have here? Well, now you're going to get a lesson in looking for a graphic. And then we got to move on to the next design, guys. We got to move on. But let's go into our Google Chrome here. We are going to go back in our word market. We're going to type in a flourish, F-L-O-U. Come on, let me learn how to get that cap locks off there. F-L-O-U-R-I-S-H. Flourish. Border. Vector keyword. Let's go ahead and click on images. Let's see if something I'm looking for something, knowing that I have an oval shape that I need it to contour to and kind of look nicely with. I'm going to try to, now here's something. That's actually nice. I like that. So if I can wrap that into that oval, I like that. You know, I like this as well, coming up around that, you know, on that lower side, just kind of swirling in. So, I'm going to save that one. Here's a thought, you know, something like that, right? You know, a nice little flower there, and mom. This is kind of the look we're going for, right? This is the kind of look we're going for in a way, somewhat in a way, but you know. All right, I think I'm gonna go with what I selected, and just to get the point across. Yeah, I'll go with what I got selected. Okay, so import bitmap for tracing. Import bitmap for tracing, and that should be in my downloads. My documents. Oh, I hate when I do that. Let's go back in here real quick. And let me save an image to see what the heck I had. I'm not saving this, but digital store, that's where it is. Digital store under documents. Lord have mercy, documents. Digital store. And there's the file. Okay. So let's go ahead, and this is a very poorly pixelated image. Very low quality, but for time's sake, we'll work with it. You can tell, you see all the pixelation when I bring this up. You know, it's very poorly. But I'm gonna go about 84% on that and preview that. Get a decent enough cut, close, you know. We'll go ahead and turn that bitmap layer off, get rid of it. And let's go ahead and pull this in. All right. We're going to take and what part of mom do I want to screw up? Haha, just kidding. I don't want to, let's see. I'd much rather it blend into the O a little bit. It's not going to be, I don't know, it's not going to be sexy. It's not going to be. I've got a, these are going to be cut out, right? This part's going to be cut out and everything. And so I'm going to trim it to this vector. This is going to be the part that I want to cut. Let me group this vector. Actually, it's all one. So if I select this first, this bottom vector last, clear everything inside of that vector boundary. It would help if I ungroup the flowers first. There we go. I believe I can fly. No, I want to group that. I want it to be grouped. That's what I want to trim. This is the boundary I want to trim to, and I want to clear everything outside of the boundary, because think of this as one piece. This is the outside of it. Outside of the boundary. Clear. There we go. No. My flower is going to be the boundary. This is what I'm going to clear. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I just told you this 25 minutes ago. The oval is what I want to clear, or the part of the oval. This is going to be my boundary, and I want to clear everything inside of it. Inside of it. There we go. Now I can go ahead and I can go through and get rid of that. And I've got my little flourish there. And everything is all tied in. Nothing is floating. I think I'm good. I could probably do the same thing at the top with that to balance it out a little bit. So let me undo. Let me take that and move it up here and mirror or flip it. Flip it. Flip it good. Oh, no. Okay, mirror that. Flip it. Get a little bit into the M. Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. All right, so the top part of this boundary here is what I want to trim to this their flower there, flourish. And I want to clear on the inside of that flourish, get rid of that. And now, once again, I can remove that flourish there. And I've got this little vine cut out, right? And old mama, I found someone like you said would come along. Okay, let's get rid of this. Not get rid of it. Let's select all of this. Group it together. Group it together, people. We can do it. And let's create that centerpiece cutout again. Just to see what it's going to look like and see how many pieces I have falling out. We're going to calculate this toolpath with our 1/8 inch end mill. No suitable vector selected. It would help if you select it there, buddy boy. And calculate that. There's one open vector identified and it's being ignored. I can let it ignore the vector, but I want to find it. I'm anal that way. So I'm going to hit select. First of all, before I hit anything, I'm going to ungroup, because it won't show you an open vector in a grouped object. And now I'm going to right click in selection, select all open vectors. And I'm going to look like a beady-eyed old man. I'm going to look and try to find it. If I don't see any pink, then I just told the program to select it, correct? I just said, hey, select this open vector. Well, if I zoom to that selected object, there's my culprit. It's my profile. Well, I know that's an open vector. It's a profile, so I don't need that as part of anything. So I didn't have any other. That was the only open vector. So let's select our design. And group that stuff back together, and let's calculate it. All right, let's go with a light color piece of maple, because this is going to be the lighter cutout, the top part. And preview the selected toolpath. Let's get rid of some waste material and see how well we did and how ugly it looks. Little thin and dainty, kind of scrawny right around in there. But you get the concept, you get the idea, you get the gist of it. Let's get rid of some of this waste and see what it looks like. Yeah, that yeah, it's kind of crappy. You know what I mean? It looks absolutely nothing like anything. I mean, it does not give any kind of appealing change to this design. So therefore, not going to do it. Not going to do it. You know what I mean? It's got to, if I'm going to do something, it's got to have, it's got to have the, it's got to add something to it. If it just makes it look like S, then, why am I wasting my time? So I'm going to go back to good old Mom. We always go back to Mom when they dump us. All right, let's see here. We're going to Z. We don't want to do Control Z. We want a G for group. Right? I hit Z and I hit zoom. Let's get out of that zoom option there. It's nice to know the Z key is zoom. Didn't really quite knew that before. G for group. We're going to recalculate that toolpath. There's one open vector identified. It is going to be my profile because it is included in there. So it ignored it. You know what I mean? We're going to reset this preview back to a blank. And cut her out. We're going to stick with it, what's good and what's plain. All right? All right, guys. You get it. Do you get it? Before I move on? Because we're going to make another one similar to this, but it's going to be kind of a long sign, a wall sign that says World's Greatest Mom or something like that. Jeff, you have a great night. They will take a different bit, won't it? Because of how small the vectors are. Well, I'm already using a small bit, an 1/8 of an inch end mill, with that cut out to begin with. And so, I could go down to my 1/16 inch end mill and see if that flower makes me look any better. But the design of it, it wasn't the right flourish. You know what I mean? I could dress this up and make it look real nice, and I probably will before I give it to you guys on Facebook, with some flourish and some pow, some bam, whatever, or whatever, some little nice looking, whoa, man, that's awesome kind of effect, right? Where it just pulls at you. But right now, that was not the wow factor. So we're going to go back and now, all right. So we're going to save this file, save as mom number 1, Mama's Day number 1. Mama's Day. Is that what they say? Is that what they say when they at the end of yoga, Mama's Day? Or is that what a mama's boy say when mom drops him off at school? Mama's Day, Mama's Day. All right, Mama number 1. And I can joke about mama's boys because I am a mama's boy. So, and I'm proud of it, ladies. Proud of it. All right. So we're going to go file close, or new, should I say. And this one's going to be a little bit of a longer project now for you. Mini carver owners that have the 24-inch cut capacity with the Vectric V-Carve desktop. And not the ability to do anything over 24 inches. We can basically create 2 separate projects, and kind of make it one, you know what I mean, to kind of almost get that tiling effect. But let's make the project first, and then we'll kind of go from there. So this is going to have a little bit of length to it now. This is going to be about 3 feet long, 36 inches in length. And it's going to have a height, a very narrow height. Most likely going to be about 5.5 inches tall. and it's going to be 3/4 of an inch thick. We will be starting on the bottom left corner of the sign, and we will be touching off on the top of the material for the zine. Now for this one, very simple, nothing to it. We're going to open up some text, and in a nice looking script type text, we're going to do something, you know, world's most annoying, no, let me see, world's best, let's go best mom. World's best mom. Yeah, you know, we got to kiss butt a little bit. All right, so let's see what we are here with this world's best mom. Okay, and now with that, we want this script. We want it all to be blended together, and this is not the text for that. So let's go in and find a nice script text that is gonna, where everything is nice and tied together. And for me, that would be not the Loki Cola. I want a script text that is going to be tied together, and it's going to have a nice curve to it and all. So let's go back to here, and we're gonna go world's best mom. All right, let me find that script text. I find myself using WordMarket a lot to help me choose from my fonts. If I don't see something that I like and it's not in my font library, then I go over to dafont.com, DAFONT.com, and then, you know, that's where I go to download additional fonts and things. So right now, Edwardian script here has got a nice look to it, little swirls and all that wonderful stuff. Let me see what else I've got that has a nice script look to it. The French script isn't too bad. It's straight up, you know, straight up. Ain't nothing wrong with you, straight up about it. World's Best Mom, right here, the Gerwin script. I like the way that's all tied together. Gershwin. Sorry. I think that's German. World's Best Mom. Here's another one. My Kunstler. Kunsler. Kunstler. Gotta be careful how you say that one. Yeah, I like that one. Kunstler script that's where we're going with. It was either that or it was the Edwardian script, but let's see here. If I was on the national news, I'd have gotten bleeped when I said that font name. That is a KJK. All right, I want to see if there's a bold option for it, because if there is, I definitely want to use that. I'm going to click apply, and that's good. And I want to stretch out some characters. So let me take a moment and draw a rectangle around here. Draw a rectangle around here. That's a country way of saying it. I want to offset that inward a good old 1/2 inch. Looking good. And I want to stretch this out. Stretch this out to let's do this. I'm going to use the draw text within a vector box. World's best mama. Mom. Little exclamation point. Get that in there. K for K. K. So script. Bold if I can, but I want to stretch horizontally. I want to stretch the characters as much as I can. I want normal margins around it. Vertically, I'll see if I can stretch them that way as well. Click apply. You know, get the best stretch I can out of it. And we'll go with that. All right, now, one of the things about this font requires a little bit of cleanup. There's a lot of overlapping lines, a lot of loops, okay, a lot of issues and things. But luckily, we know how to overcome that. So we're going to come in here and we're going to break this up into a curved object, a vector object. Now that it's a curved object, we're going to take our scissor tool. We're going to go ahead and remove all of the little, oops, not that loop. That's the big loop. We don't want that one. We want this little loop right here. We got a loop up here. We're going to get rid of that as well. And down here at the bottom, we're going to trim away those loops. We don't want any loops or overlapping lines. Now we're going to go ahead and trim away these lines. I'm not going to trim away in between the vectors. You're going to see how I'm going to handle those in a minute because I'm going to make things a little bit easier for myself. Right now I'm focusing all the loops, and there are a lot of them in this font, ladies and gentlemen. In the B, in the B. And the S's. It's a bunch of BS's. I'm going to get rid of this. Let's go ahead and click on that. Almost there. A couple more. Can we do it? Again, I'm not going to trim away the overlapping lines just yet. Not going to weld anything just yet. Okay? Except for that. I'm going to weld that. And I'm going to get rid of that node. That's going to drive me nuts. So we're going to node edit that. And we're going to not open the move tool, you goofball. N for node edit. Nice to know that M is the shortcut key. We're going to delete that point. There we go. Okay. Now, I want these lines to be nice and lined up with one another. I want a nice transition. I don't want that jog. Well, I could trim these two things, weld them together, and then go through and do some node editing. But I'm going to save myself a little bit of time here and now by I'm going to get out of node editing. And I'm going to select my OM apostrophe or exclamation point. And I'm going to bump this over until that outside of that O is right on that outside edge. Now that I have that there, I'm going to come in and remove this. And while these two last things are selected, I'm going to bump this over to the left. Till that outside edge is kissing one another. A little more, a little more, a little more. That's good. If I want to be really anal about it, hold down the control key and hit that arrow key and really get up on it. Okay, I want that nice transition. Okay, so now that I have mom done, if I were to take these three objects and select them and weld, I don't need that one selected. If I weld those together with the weld tool, first icon, second row, now I've got a nice clean transition in the text. Nice and clean. I want to do the same thing with best. I want to select my ST and I want to left key over. Get that in line. Let go of the click on the S, get rid of it while holding the shift key down. Left key over. I'm going to zoom in on this one. control shift, or not shift, but control, and I'm going to use my right key to get right back to that edge. There we go. And now I can select those 3 letters and weld them together. Nice transitions. Now I've got a loop here. Got a little bit of a funkiness going on there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to go to node editing on this. And on that node editing, I want to get rid of this node. I'm going to delete that point. Okay? And this line here is coming and looping around. All right? I don't want it to loop around, so I want to come in and pull this over, and notice that there's a loop there all by itself. Well, if I undo this now and undo that transition I did a moment ago, now that I know that this is a loop by itself, I can go ahead and get out of node editing mode so I can select it and delete that. I don't want it there. Which means I want to ultimately go into node editing, and I want to ultimately pull this down a little bit. A little bit of a transition there. Alright, so that one's cleaned up. Now, what is going on here with the middle of the O? There's no way a router bit is going to fit in there, so I might as well get rid of it in the middle of the B. I've got an overlapping line right there. Let's get rid of that. And we'll call it a day on the B. Once again, now, you'll see how we're going to handle these distances to get over to, you know, this apostrophe S and everything. But let's focus on the task at hand. So let's take all of our letters. Let's get in there and select them. So that way everything's moving at one time. Left key over. We're focusing on the O and the R right now. Shift, select the R, get rid of it. Left key over. I had to hold the control key down to sneak up, get right on that line. Same thing here. Let go of this one, holding the shift key, and move that over. I want that D. I want a nice transition into that D. And now I can come through and select these 3 objects. Weld. All right, so we got a nice clean transition. Now, when we're gonna be cutting this out. This again is gonna be cut out of a contrasting material. It's gonna be basically 3 words: world's best mom, right? And those words are gonna be cut out, and they're gonna put on a backer board that is gonna have the same similar outline of the world's best mom. So, first of all, let's finish the words and focus on what we're doing. We need a little bit of a transition. We got to tie this word in together, one piece, right? We can tie the W in. So we need to create that transition for the W, right? We might even do a little transition to this S here and kind of get those pulled into one another. So let's go ahead and create our arc. You know, we're going to be most likely coming from here into somewhere here and creating a nice transition. We could bring that W closer, you know, if we wanted to. That's all right. I'm not going to be stingy. I'll give it some room. I'm going to hold down the control key while I'm in transform mode. I'm going to drag up another line, another arc, and I'm going to use my right arrow key to kind of pull it over and get the width that I want for this transition. And, you know, where do I want to transition at from here? And I believe right now this will be suffice, you know, to transition somewhere in here. So I'm just going to pull up and kind of find that ideal spot. There's really no real ideal spot when you're dealing with letters like this. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to trim away my waistlines. Okay. And then we're going to come in here and then trim. Oh, not that one. We're going to zoom in and we're going to trim away this here. And, you know, kind of tie that in together. Somewhat. All right. So it's all a piece of maple there. All right, for the D and the S, we've got a big offset going on here. And I would really like for the for it to come in without having to move my apostrophe or squish things in and things. So let's go and do a little bit of node editing. I'm going to take and I'm going to grab these two nodes right here. And I'm going to use my up arrow key. And then my left arrow key. Down, left, down, left, down, left. Alright. I'm not going to make the S do all the work. Right? I want that D to meet to it a little bit. So I'm going to go into node editing here. And I'm going to grab these two nodes. This node. This node and this node. And I'm going to use my down arrow key. And then out. Don't worry. Don't worry. We will get those curves and all straight in a moment, but we're going to get to where we need to get to. Don't you fret it. Alright. Now, holy cow. We got all those funky ovals. How do we get rid of that? Well, while we're in node editing mode, we're just going to swing around those anchors. Pull that anchor around. Okay. And we're going to make this a nice little, pull this anchor around. And get that transition back, you know, how you want it. I'm going to pull that line up a little bit. This node here. Moving it up ever so slightly. I want to get rid of that little divot right there. So I'm going to pull this anchor down. Well, don't do it while you still got the anchor selected there, Hoss. I'm talking to myself. All right. I'm going to pull this anchor down. Get that curve back in there. That nice curve. Kind of straightening out. And then I'm going to pull this in. Get that nice straight kind of curve going. You know. And we can even move that in a little bit. Don't want to go too crazy now. All right, get that curve going. Let's go ahead and trim this up. Let's trim this up to get rid of that things, because while I'm in node editing mode, man, it really hates me when I grab node editing mode before my object. I don't know why. But we're going to get rid of this node right here. Delete it so it pulls that line back up straight. And once again, we're going to take and we're going to actually delete that point so it pulls that line up in there. And give this a little bit. We'll give it a little bit of a arc kind of this way. You know, pull that arc up a little bit. And this node, we'll spread it out a little bit, kind of. Put a little in line and get that transition. You know, we could clean that up much more, you know, however we want. Probably doesn't look right to you. If it doesn't look right to you, cut the S out as a separate part, cut the W out as a separate part, and the world word as a separate part, however you want to do. But me, I want to tie everything in together. Now, I could have taken my apostrophe and brought it in closer. I could have came and, you know, selected all of this and moved it all inward a little bit. There's nothing saying I can't do it now. Let's... so it doesn't look so homely out there and stretch and all. But all right, so we got worlds done. Best is all good. All we need to do is tie in the B and the E, which B and E is illegal in many states, everybody. So do not tie anything up when you're in the middle of a B and E. All right, you can tell it's getting late. Got to get going. I'm getting loopy. All right, so let's bring this down. Bring it over. Find our hotspot for our transition. Pull that over and rotate that down a little bit. All right, control key. I want to pull down a copy of that. I want to rotate that a little bit as well. All I'm doing is creating a point of transition. Scissor tool. Let's go ahead and trim. And get rid of that one as well. Okay, so that's going to be my transition for best. And mom is all good. And I'm actually going to cut the exclamation point out as a separate item. So, and the apostrophe. All right, now we've got to create our border. So we're going to delete this rectangle here. We don't need it. It's not part of this project. We're going to grab everything and we're going to group it together. Group it together, everybody. Get a little closer. Group it together. And, you know, let's ungroup. Let's take old best out there and group it together, because that's going to be a separate word. World's going to be a separate word, and mama is going to be, we'll leave that as a separate word. So I want to take this and move that over. There we go. All right, I want to offset all of this with it all selected. I want to offset outward. And I want a good offset. I mean, a good inch or so, inch and a half, whatever the case may be. Get rid of that decimal point. And I want to create sharp corners. No. I want to offset outward. Too much. Inch and a half is too much. So we're going to undo that. Let's go 0.75, 3/4 of an inch. Offset. Awesome. We'll leave it at that. All right. This inside trash can go. All right, what this shows me, what this tells me is that my piece of board at 5.5 inches tall is going to be a little bit too thin. So I want to go, let's go 6 1/4. Rip down a piece of 6 1/4. Click OK. Get rid of that rectangle. Doesn't need to be there anymore. Let's center this project up. All right, so now our profile cut. The profile cut is going to be cut out of a dark contrasting piece of material, or light if you prefer dark on light versus light on dark, however you want. But you want a contrasting piece of material, right? We want a nice, and it can be as thin as or as thick as you want. I'm going to be putting keyholes in the back of it so it can hang on the wall. So I'm going to go with a 3/4 inch board. This is a profile cut, so I'm going to be using a 1/4 inch end mill to cut it out. And we're going to calculate this. And this would be out of a, a darker piece of material. All right. Get rid of all that waste material. Could probably save it for another project or something. And you guys get the idea. I don't need to go through and delete all these little pieces of scrap, but So we've got, this is going to be our sign, our board hanging up, right? This is going to be the shape of it. And then on top of it, in a contrasting piece of material, we are going to cut out, and I might as well, if I have a piece of maple long enough, I'm going to do a profile cut or an inlay. If you guys want to do the inlay thing again, you know, like Bob was mentioning earlier, we could do that. But I'm going to do a profile cut for old World's Best Mom here. And I'm going to cut through the material just to show. But I would, you know, I would typically be using a thin piece of material, 1/4 of an inch. Now, for this, because I am using a thin piece of material, I want a bit that's really going to get in there close to those letters and give me the detail that I want. So for me, it's either going to be my 1/8 inch end mill or my 1/16 inch end mill. And my 1/16 inch end mill is going to be the ideal tool for this profile cut. Now, you have to understand right now I'm using a 3/4 inch cut depth just for preview purposes only. Preview purposes only. However, my depth of cut is only going to be a maximum of 3/8 of an inch cut because my 1/16 inch cutter only does a maximum depth of cut of about 1/16 of an inch to 1/2 an inch, you know, 16th. Not 16th, sorry. 7/16. And so I'll be cutting out of something, you know, 1/4 inch, 3/8, you know. But I'm doing it out of 3/4 inch material for preview purposes only. And I'm going to reduce this these cuts down from 25 to 2 just for, you know, time's sake. Cutting on the outside, we're going to calculate this out. And let's... All right, and that would be adhered or glued to that backer. So you get that look. You know what I mean? All right, so that's project number 2. You know, so I'm just thinking, you know, we got to think of some things that Mama would like. The last one's going to be a little practical, little jewelry holder. Not a jewelry box, just a jewelry tray, a jewelry and cell phone holder, right? Just a little practical gift. The other 2 are more signs, right? For them to hang up on their wall and cherish forever and, you know, put in the attic when you're not looking and only put it out when you come over to visit kind of thing. And so but, you know, so we got our signs, a nice little contrasting boards and stuff. Really nice look to it and all. And we got that. Now for our last project, we're going to save this as, save as, because I'm going to be sending these files in Facebook. Mother's Day is right around the corner, so they will be put up in the next day or so. This is going to be World's Best Mom. All right. And then finally, the final project is a very simple, easy project. It'll take just a few seconds to make it. And it'll be, you know, just a nice little catch-all tray. We're going to go, once that's saved, we're going to go new. Now, this is only going to have a length, this little tray here is probably going to have a length of maybe 9 or 10 inches overall. Depending on, you could even go 12 inches. It is going to have a little bit of a width for the tray. We're going to probably go, let's go with a 5.5. That's good. 5.5 and then 3/4 inch thick. Now in here, we're going to draw a rectangle. This rectangle is going to have radius corners. And the radius corners are going to be about 3/4 of the radius corners. And right over along here, we're going to create our tray. Now, let's go with a 1 inch radius corner. 1 inch. Click apply. There we go. And the while we're in here, we're going to go ahead and create our little slot here. I think this one's going to cut all the way through. Yeah, let's bring it down a little bit. Close the tool. Close the tool. Now, a typical cell phone, you can measure the thickness of a cell phone, but a typical cell phone is generally around the 1/4 inch mark, I believe. Maybe a little thicker. Depends on how thick or thin your phone is. But we want a phone to be able to kind of sit upright for storage and charging and stuff like that in this slot. And so it's going to have a little bit of a lean when we cut our depth and all. We're basically cutting a straight slot. You can't really cut a, that undercut kind of thing. So it's going to have a little bit of a lean backwards to it. And our tray here is going to be for watches, earrings, jewelry when she's getting ready at night to, coming in. She's in her bedroom, sets her cell phone up. She's got a little place that'll hold it and charge it. She can throw her rings and jewelry and bracelets and whatever off of her before she takes a relaxing, shower, bath, or just jump in bed and watch Wheel of Fortune all night, whatever moms do. We're going to have a nice little tray here. And we want the tray, whatever the length is here, we want one that would typically hold a general watch or a bracelet. You know what I mean? Necklaces will tend to get kind of curled up in here when they get dropped into the tray. You're going to find these files in the Digital Woodcarver Owners Group. You've got to be part of the Digital Woodcarver Owners Group. For the files, you got to be a Digital Woodcarver owner. If you're not a Digital Woodcarver owner and you happen to be watching these, I will make these available on our site for digital download, and they'll run about $2 a download. They are free to Digital Woodcarver owners. Okay. Now, the tray, like I said, necklaces tend to get kind of just dumped and they'll curl and all and everything in there. And then, something that'll hold a watch if it was laid out or what have you. And so I want this to look sleek, not bulky. So right now, my height of my rectangle is looking to be about 3 3/4. And, think about a neat couple of loop earrings, a watch and all. Is that enough room? 3 3/4. Yeah, Do I need, the question is do I need to make my tray wider? Maybe a little bit wider. All right. And then our cell phone slot, however long your cell phone, get an average and give yourself a little bit of room extra, right? Doesn't matter. It's going to be overlapping here. All right. This is going to be it. And we're one last thing here. All right. We got to add the customization here. Right? Got to know it's from you, right? I love your mom. And I don't want to use the Kunstler's text. I don't want to do any more cleanup. So I'm just going to use the Monotype Corsiva. Monotype Corsiva is a nice, elegant font to work with when you're V carving and things. And so we're going to go into the Monotype Corsiva. And we're going to go with a 1/4 inch tall text. And we're going to click apply. Move that up here. Now I can come in. I want this to be a 1/2 inch tall. Bold. I want to give it some boldness. That'll work. And now I'm just going to use my shift key and pull that in just a little bit so I can get it to fit next to this cell phone slot. Right? That way she's a constant reminder. If you want to be really a constant reminder, you could actually engrave in the bottom of the tray, love Danny, love Brenda, love John, whatever. So that way every time she puts her jewelry in there, she knows it wasn't that son number 2 that she always pays attention to. It was that one that she ignored growing up and loved a little bit less than the older brother. I don't know. I don't have an older brother. But anyway, you know what I mean? You could put your name in there, customize it, say, Johnny, Brenda, whatever. I'm going to leave it blank. She's going to have to guess. All right, so we're going to do a pocket cut. This pocket's going to be a shallow pocket, a very nice shallow pocket. Generally, I would use a box core bit or a bowl bit for this to give the nice rounded edges on the bottom, you know. And for this, it is going to be a small bowl bit, our 1376 white side bowl bit. But you can use your flat end mill too. But I want a nice little rounding tray where this tray just really transitions into that curve really smooth and nicely and all. It could even be a box core bit that you pick up from, you know, Home Depot or Lowe's, and you would do a profile cut with it and then do a pocket with your flat end mill so it transitions into that pocket, however you want to do. But I'm going to use a bowl bit, and I do not know why I'm in the drilling toolpath while I'm talking about this stuff, but it's going to be a pocket cut. And I'm only going to go a very shallow amount, maybe a 1/4 of an inch. Just a nice little tray, little catch-all tray. And for the tool, I'm going to use a bowl bit, and that is my form tool, my 1376. Now this is I need the 1370 bowl bit, which is a 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch radius, 1/4 inch diameter. And do I have that tool programmed in? I do not. What's this? That's a 1 inch. That's my 1 inch. I want the 1370. So on the white side 13, we're going to add that bit in real quick so you can see where, how to add a form tool, a special form tool, because we got to draw out the profile of the bit. And for that that bowl bit, that 1370, oh, I got a tummy ache. It's got an 1/8 inch radius. The cutting diameter is 7/16. The cutting height is 5/16. And those are the three numbers that we need to know. So let's draw this bowl bit out real quick. So we're going to use the rectangle tool. I always use the rectangle tool when I'm drawing profile form bits. It's a good way to start. So for this, the overall cutting diameter is 7/16, okay? If you don't know the decimal, type in the fraction, hit the equal sign on your keyboard. It'll put that in for you, that 0.4375. Now, the height of this, the cutting height of this, I'm going to go, because it is a 5/16, I'm going to go 0.375 for right now. And because I'm going to have to, add to it and all that stuff and all. But let's go 0.375 for right now. That's 6/16. And we're going to do a radius, internal radius of that 1/8 of an inch. It's got an 1/8 of an inch radius, 0.125. And we're going to click apply, or create, should I say, and we're going to create that. All right. Now what that's done for us is that it has drawn the right half of it's actually drawn kind of the box and all, but if we go into node editing mode, we can now cut this vector. Okay, we can now cut this vector, and I'm going to cut it in two places. I'm going to cut it up here, and I'm going to cut it in the center here of the bit, because I need the right side of the bit for this. Now my overall cutting height, and you want to draw this bit to scale, my overall cutting height is 5/16. So I'm going to take a quick measurement, and I'm using the dimension tool for this, and I'm going to do a vertical measurement. And I want to get that vertical height, and it's 1/4 of an inch. All right, so I'm a little shy of 5/16. So if I come in here with my line tool, and I click in here and I start to draw my line, my angle is going to be 90 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. The angle is going to be 90, and the the length is going to be that 5/16, right, minus that 1/4 of an inch that I've already got, equal sign. So that 1/16 of an inch, that's what I want it to be. I'm going to click add and create that line, and then space bar to finish, or I could click the finish button. And now I have the right side of my bit. Let's select all of it and join those two separate vectors together as one. So now we have one right side profile of this bit. Now we can come in and create that tool database, that file for it. So in the Imperial Tools, this is going to be a new form tool. And the key thing is to have that bit selected when you open that form tool. Have that profile selected when you open that tool database. Got the parameters in here. We're going to have a 33.3% step over for this. It is going to run around 45 to 50 inches a minute with a plunge of 15. I am going to call this my WS1370 bowl bit. There we go. Click apply, lock that in, and click OK. Now I can go and get rid of this profile. I generally, when I draw profiles of bits, I generally export those out as a DXF file. File export as a DXF, and I open up a DXF file that I have a bunch of profiles in, and I add this one to it or that one to it. So that way I never have to draw them again. I can pull from them if I ever need to for whatever reason. But in this case, I'm going to delete it. All right, pocket cut. Pocket cut, going to be a 1/4 of an inch deep. We're going to go with our bowl bit that we just drew. Click OK, and we're going to calculate that toolpath. All right. We're going to preview that selected toolpath and create our nice little bowl. All right, nice little tray there. So far, so good. All right, we're going to take our text. I'm going to V-carve the text. It's going to be a V-carve, 0 start depth using a 60-degree V-bit, 90-degree, whatever V-bit you want to use. We're going to calculate that. Preview that selected toolpath. Looking sexy. All right, final one's going to be our this one would actually be a pocket cut too. And probably a 1/4 of an inch. So I could have probably included it with this, but that's a special form bit that I'm using. So I'm going to use a straight end mill for this one. A 1/4 of an inch. I don't know if that's going to give me enough lip to grab the phone so it leans back a little. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of depth because it is a 3/4 inch piece of material. So I'm going to go 3125. This is going to be using my 1/4 inch end mill. And we're going to calculate that out. Create that nice little slot that phone will sit into. The open, the reason why we went out the outside here is depending on how deep you cut your pocket and all on, and where the charger is usually in the middle, the bottom of the phone or the top of the side or whatever, but this is where the charger, where the phone, the cable can run out and all that stuff if the charger is low on the phone or something like that. So just a very simple jewelry / catch-all, change catch-all, whatever you want it to be. With a cell phone holder for charging at night when they're in bed. A little I love you, Mom. And heck, we could just go, let's get crazy with it. You are the greatest. Oh my God, we are really hoping that for our next birthday, she is kicking, she's remembering all this stuff. And we're going to put a little exclamation point in there to really enforce that statement. we're going to click apply. And we're going to drag that in here. All right. We're going to drag that in there. Let's center it up. We're going to select that. We're going to open this up. We're going to do our alignment tool, align to selection. The last item I selected, we're going to put that in there. And we're going to go ahead and open up that V-Carve toolpath once again. And we're going to include this with that V-Carve toolpath. And we're going to calculate it. And, oh, no, we're not going to include it with that toolpath. How silly am I? We're going to take that out of that toolpath. I'm a goofball there, guys. Don't follow that instruction. We want that out of there. Recalculate that toolpath. We need to create another V-Carve toolpath with a start depth of 0.25, the bottom of our pocket. Okay, the bottom of our pocket. And then calculate that toolpath. Preview that selected toolpath. And love you, Mom. You're the greatest. Nice little, cute little, catch-all. We can soften up the edges because, it is a little soft. And if we did have the White Side 2050 roundover, 1/8 inch roundover bit, I could draw a rectangle around that profile, do a profile cut with cutting a depth of 1/4 of an inch. That's how tall that that 2050 roundover is to the top of that roundover. We're going to use that 2050 roundover tool. And we're going to step over a -1/8 of an inch so that it rounds over right up against that edge, -0.125. And we're going to calculate on the outside. We're going to calculate that toolpath. If we look at the toolpath, you see how that 1/8 of an inch is going to come over there. And now if we preview that selected toolpath, we can soften up those edges, right? Soften up those edges for old Mom. We could even, if we want to take it a step further, we could even soften up the inside edges and everything, with that same roundover bit. But you want to be cautious about, that you don't cut into your pocket. But if I came in here and I selected that inside pocket there and calculated that toolpath and previewed that, we could round over that inside of that tray as well if we wanted to. I don't know if that looks right for me. I'm most likely just going to break the edge on the inside part of the tray, break it, nice little broken edge in there with some sandpaper and stuff. I don't think the roundover is my cup of tea. So I'm going to reset this preview and preview all of the toolpaths. Once again, our pocket cut, our text, and our roundover. A nice little roundover edge there. So a nice little, very simple gift. Catch-all tray, cell phone holder, and charger for dear old Mom. All right? All right. Yes, we could use a taper on the outside edge. We could use a V-bit to just chamfer that outside edge. You could use the roundover like I did here. The White Side 2050 is the tool I use, a little 1/8 inch roundover router bit. You can use your 60 or your 90 degree V-bit and just do a chamfered edge if you wanted to. There's all kinds of things that you can do. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be class for tonight. Hopefully you were able to pick up something from these three very simple but very easy projects that, just little gift ideas for Mom, especially if you're a last-minute shopper and you didn't really, you got your mom some flowers and all. Run out there and carve this, because if we look at this, just to let you know, let's take a look at the time, guys. Let's see how much time it's going to take to make this gift for Mom. Come on, 38 minutes. Everybody's got 38 minutes to spare for dear old Mom to make this little project, And not bad. Not bad at all. 38 minutes to knock it out. Heck, it's May 18th or 13th or something like that is Mother's Day. I better know what date it is when I look at the calendar and all. But we could make, you could make bunches of those and try to sell them at the next, don't make a bunch. But, if you go to a craft show before Mother's Day, there you go. Little Mother's Day catch-all trays. Right? All right. Hopefully this was interesting to you. Hopefully at least you maybe picked up a couple of things. Who knows? I'll have these files in the Facebook group available for free download. And if you are in the class tonight and you are not a Digital Woodcarver owner, you're absolutely welcome to email me at sales, S-A-L-E-S, at digitalwoodcarver.com. You can purchase these 3 files for $2 each for a digital, and you'll get the Vectric file along with the toolpaths and everything, nice, cleaned up, organized, and named, and all that stuff for your own use as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have a great day, and good night. Until next time, I will see you soon. Now, 1 minute before I go, I know we didn't do a Q&A tonight. We'll catch up on a Q&A. I am doing a live Q&A. It's going to be an open forum Q&A. That will be Monday night. So have your Vectric questions ready, your CNC questions ready. Monday night, our class is going to be just an open Q&A. As I'm answering your questions, I will try to demonstrate those answers in the Vectric software or the TNG or the CNC USB controller the best that I can. But if you have your questions ready for Monday night, it's going to be an open Q&A night for class. All right. Until next time. See you soon.